Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Dungeon Alchemist's new cave creation tool. Let's roll it. So if you're unfamiliar with Dungeon Alchemist, this is a map generation tool which was released a couple of years ago that allows you to create battle and exploration maps really fast. You can draw a room and it will populate it with its own assets. And it creates some really nice looking maps really fast. And then when you get into the customization of it, you can create pretty much anything that your mind can come up with as long as you can work with the assets that are there right now. Probably one of the biggest knocks on Dungeon Alchemist is that it's mostly limited to classic fantasy assets and you can't do things like sci-fi with it yet. But the development of it is incredible and its terrain creation and alteration tools are top notch. One of the things that people were using the terrain creation tools, you can raise and lower it as you need, was to create caves. But this could be a very time-consuming process. You'd have to literally raise up the entire level of the map and then slowly carve out the cave that you wanted because you were limited by what the app was designed to do at the time. And when you did the export of the map into your virtual tabletop, it wouldn't see the cave walls as walls because they weren't drawn as rooms, and so you would have to go through and do all the walls yourself. It can become a little tedious. The maps looked incredible though, but it was time consuming. To make up for this, Dungeon Alchemist has now included a full cave generation tool, which takes the same process that people were using already, but speeds it up significantly, and also allows you to drop in things like their assets designed just for a cave. So it'll say like, okay, this is a crypt, but you're not in a actual construction, you're in a cave. We're going to change the way the assets look a little bit. It's really slick, and the first time I used it, I knew I wanted to show it off. So let's take a look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new map and start it out with caves as the general terrain. So we're going to go up to File here and go to New Map. Set for digital, I'm not going to print this. 40 by 30 is a nice small cave to explore. And where it says terrain here, I am choosing caves. Vegetation, caves, that's going to put things like mushrooms in it all over the place. Elevation is solid rock. You could change it to something else. I can make it a cave system if I want to. I'm not going to put water in there right now, but it also says room placement, cave. And it's not going to put lights in. So everything is going to be set up to create a cave. So let's create this. And you can see that it creates its own cave system just from scratch. And it's already got elements in there. And that's a nice organic looking cave system. Really fun. Let's go back and create another new room. Elevation, we're just going to do solid rock at this point. So what solid rock does, it's going to create a new map with its elevation all the way up at the top, and it's just going to be solid rock that I'm going to have to now carve caves out of. Let's try that. So here is my 30 by 40 cave. It's solid rock right now. So what I need to do is carve some caves out. One of the fun things that I just discovered is that if you do it from the edge, it's going to let some sunlight in. So there's your cave entrance. Nice chamber that comes out. You can just keep carving down. What's happening is it's taking all that solid rock, which is at the top elevation that's possible for a Dungeon Alchemist map, and it is dropping it immediately down to ground level. So you're literally carving a cave out. And I'm just going to create a couple of little chambers, some rooms to go in, maybe a nice chamber over there. We'll go down this way. Maybe that'll be where the big chamber is. Now, one of the things you can see is that everything's now on the same level. You can shrink and grow your carving tool to make things a little smaller if you want. So make the passages a little bit more claustrophobic. But one of the things you can see is everything's now on the same level, right? And caves don't go on the same level. If you've ever been in a cave, you realize that that's not realistic. And so you can actually still use the excellent terrain tools for Dungeon Alchemist to raise and lower the terrain and change it up a little bit. So I'm going to go over here. First, I want to put in some water. Let's lower that down. Put some water in. Got a nice little underground lake or a pond here. And now I'm going to lower the terrain. I'm going to expand that out a little bit. Where's my lower button? Come on. We'll expand that out. We'll shrink that down. We'll zoom in a little bit here. Get back over. We're going to lower it. Now I have it on the speed is really, really strong right now. You can see that it's lowering very, 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 very deep beyond the ground level. I want to smooth that out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the brush strength, make it down to the bottom. We're going to raise the terrain a little bit and just very gently, I do a lot of clicks to kind of bring it a little bit more of a smooth incline into the pond. So it's a little bit better. If I wanted to spend a lot of time with that, I could get that to be a little bit smoother. I made it too much. So now we lower again with lower strength. There we go. Now we have more of a beach going in. That's kind of fun. And you can also do things like raise it along the edge so that you create like a walkway around it. So you want to create a really tight area for people to walk through, make it real dangerous because you're worried about something's going to attack you from behind. You can do that as well. So I'm going to flatten the terrain over here. Create a nice little walkway around the lake. So now people can get around all the way around the lake. Kind of fun. I really love how fast and how smooth this is. It's really cool. And then what I said is you can actually put rooms in here. So let's zoom in on this space right here. We'll go to a room area and we'll do a crypt. Let's do a burial chamber. That's fine. And you can drag a rectangle out. But you see how that goes to a check mark there? That's because you can still draw squares and it will just continue to add depending on what you got. So it'll do a burial chamber in that whole area, which is not uniform, right? I want to go to here. I can maybe come down to this a little bit. And now let's go. It'll put in the assets for us. And there we go. Instant burial chamber that is set up for a cave system. Kind of fun. And you can do the same thing over here. So if we want to make this like a burial hallway, say that at one time this was the burial chamber for an ancient cult. And this was their way of coming into their burial chamber. And this is what remains. Let's go see what it does. So it puts in torches and lights. You can actually say don't put lights in. But it shows you that at one time, people were walking through here, and it keeps it as the cave. Really fun. So one of the things that I think I'm going to be using this for is to carve out my caves. You now can export out as a VTT file and bring it into whatever VTT you want, like Foundry or Roll20 or ArkenForge. It will trace out the walls for you, which is really helpful. I do say you want to check out the walls a little bit to make sure that they are consistent and that all the sight lines are blocked. Had a little bit of trouble with that in one of my Foundry maps. And then because folks do feel that some of the asset choices inside Dungeon Alchemist are a little bit limited, you're really stuck with their one art style, I can bring it into something like ArkenForge and use all my ArkenForge assets to put in things like walls and doors and all my little assets that I want to throw on it. But if I want to do it real quick, I could just use Dungeon Alchemist and I'm good to go. I've already used this for one of my campaigns and they loved going through the dungeon that I created with it. It really is a cool way of doing things. And I'm going to show you another way to make caves, because what if you want to do the outside and do the entrance to a cave? So let's go here, go back to the screen. We're going to go 40 by 30 again with digital. Vegetation, we're just going to do, well, we're not doing caves. So terrain, we're going to do maybe forest. Evergreen clearing, fine. No, let's put some water in. Let's see what happens. Let's do a river nearby. And room placement at water level, there's no weather, elevation is hills. So let's go ahead and create. And again, Dungeon Alchemist terrain creation tools, they're top notch. I love using them to create battle maps for outdoors. The one thing I don't like is that you can't show underneath the trees because I'm not doing 3D. But look how cool that is. Look how neat that is. So there's an evergreen clearing with a nice river going through it. I want to put a cave entrance here. Well, how do I do that? Let's go to terrain. We'll go to cave builder, raise cave area, and watch what happens. It's going to immediately raise everything all the way up as high as it can go. There we go. So there's a cave area right there. And see how it moves the trees up too? This is not the way the real world works. So what we're also going to do is we're going to go to a raised terrain, and we're going to smooth out how it gets up to the top like that. Sometimes it's better to do that 3D. You can change the strength of it to make it a little bit faster. So now you're getting a little bit of a more natural way of how land tends to go up, right? There we go. It's not just an artificial wall that suddenly appears in the middle of the forest. And now I want to go back up here, and we're going to go to Cave Carver. Carve the cave. Bunk. Bunk. There we are. Cave out. And so now you have this wonderful cave that's coming out. In fact, I'm going to undo that because I want to make this a little bit smaller for the entrance. There we go. I have a little bit of a chimney problem here, but you have that entrance to the cave, and now you have the cave entrance here. So you could go through and make a huge outdoor terrain area for people to explore and put all sorts of different encounters they can get into as they approach the caves or as they're looking for it. And then maybe off in a corner, you create the elevated hill that you're carving the cave into, and you can use all the carve caving tools on a regular map. You could even put this next to a town, for example, or put regular buildings on the outskirts or the outside of the cave to kind of block its entrance. And if you don't like the way certain things look, you can do things like put assets down. I don't like the way that that weird chimney looks, so I'm going to go to my place objects and then go to paint objects. I'm going to look at rock formations, and let's just click some rocks there. Click. There we go. And click some rocks. Maybe I want that to be maybe not that bad. I can always Control Z. There we go. I can put some rocks over here. Maybe it's a more mountainous area. Change the brush density and the brush size a little bit. Put some rocks over here. And so now it feels a little bit more like a more natural looking cave entrance. All these formations of the bedrock coming out to see. And then once the players get in here, you can just switch to another map or a cave map. Or if you want to create a huge map and do that, you can throw your caves in beyond that entry point, and it is all done. Really, really well done, and it is fast. So here's my cool caves, but what if I want to see what it looks like in person? This is really cool if you want to describe the room. If you put a bunch of mushrooms in, or you put some objects in, or change the level of how the cave is sloped, you can show that. The way that you do it is you go to here to place a token. You can actually use some of their pre-gen tokens. If you have a Hero Forge account, you actually can import your own tokens. I do not have one that is active at the moment, so I can't do that. Let's put some characters in. So let's take this wonderful barbarian. We're going to stick him in right there. You can see that he snaps to grid. And then when you click on the eye here, it's going to switch to first person view. And I'm using the mouse to look around. And then you can just use your arrow keys. There's the exit. You can use your arrow keys to move through. You can use spacebar to jump. So if something gets in the way, there we go. And I can walk all the way through here. And there's my pool. There we go. You can see, looking down, there's my walkway going across, and there's my more gentle slope into the deep, deep pool where I can put all sorts of nasties. You use your mouse to look around. One thing I really wish that it would do is to put a roof on. I understand why it doesn't, but I would love it if it did. And it treats the walls as walls. Now we can try to walk along the edge here. Up into the water I go. Let's turn around. I keep forgetting to turn with the mouse. So this is really cool, and I've actually used this even for things like posters for one-shots where people are describing, hey, you start out in a prison. So I created a dungeon cell and actually did a first-person view and took a screenshot of it so that people could see what exactly it is that they were looking at or where they were. And when you go through, if you put things like doors in and you click on the door will open inside the map. So you can see it. Almost feels as though Dungeon Alchemist is trying to become a type of VTT in its own right. But right now it's cool to be able to maybe record a screen video or to take a screenshot to show people all this cool work that you've looked at from a first-person view. Hey, here's what it looks like in 3D. I've done that with some of my campaigns where folks were in a valley and there was a ruined temple on top of a hill with a narrow walkway going up, and I wanted to show them that. So I switched to first-person view and took a screenshot and was like, okay, here's what this looks like. And suddenly the map really came alive for them. I think with the first-person view in caves, this really takes off. All told, if you have not looked at Dungeon Alchemist yet, I think the cave generation tool and the outdoor terrain tools are top-notch. Really look at them. And if you want a very quick way to create things like taverns or dungeon crawls or mansions or ancient crypts or tombs that you want people to be able to walk through, you can do it in almost no time with Dungeon Alchemist. So if you want to check out Dungeon Alchemist for yourself, you can go to dungeonalchemist.com and check out all the cool things that they're doing, including a roadmap for things that are upcoming. They do some really cool YouTube videos, by the way. And if you want to buy it, it is purchased through Steam. We'll click on that, and you can see that the current price of the game for Steam and Mac and Windows is $44.99. That's not a whole lot of money for what you get with a really powerful tool. Sure, as I said, the assets could allow you to use different genres of game, but right now what you can do is pretty impressive. And they're going to be expanding things as they move forward. This is a map-making tool that is worth checking out. Really, you want to do this. So coming up next on the channel, I am planning an interview for one of my skipping lunch episodes, which will probably not be on Thursday the next couple of weeks. Long story of that, school's coming to an end, but I am reading very quickly Index Card RPG, and I am loving it once I started to get my brain around how it's designed. I cannot wait to talk about that with all of you. So until we meet again, folks, happy playing, everyone.